to have you back from that short break. And right now, you're on to highlight on Heartbeat AM for 5 this morning. And what we have for you is something that I'll say is just an additional to what you've watched already on Starting Again in the new year. So, and now we want to look at your emotional aspect of life, where you have to start again, where you have to be healed from all those things, all the past emotions that you may have stopped. They are not, or they are affecting you negatively. This is what we want to look at, and this I title it Healing from Last Year's Emotional Wounds. I have a special guest in the house, my resource person, to really bring us up to speed on this and to really make us understand why and how we need to check our emotional stability and be in balance when it comes to taking care of our life. Let me quickly introduce to you Mr. Edogo Eket Esied, the CEO, lead counseling psychologist at Triple E Counseling Services, Uyo. He's also lecturer, Top Faith University in Patak. He is undergoing and taking care of his PhD degree, and that is in view. You're welcome to the program, sir. Good
Thank
to have you
you.
once again.
Thank you, Caroline, for having me.
And I'm so happy that you always respond to our call whenever we call on you. Because, you know, apart from the physical aspect of life, the emotional aspect of us really need to be in check before we can actually carry on in life. So welcome to the show once again.
Thank you for having me here.
You see, we observe that some people cross over to the new year with smiles on their faces, but with wounds in their heart. So before we go into it deeply, I'd like you to establish what's emotional wounds, what they are referred to.
Okay, thank you. That's very important. The first thing is that as human beings, we think, we feel, and we behave. In other words, cognitively, we process information. And then based on what happens, there's a feeling, there's a response. Either joy, satisfaction, or disappointment if we don't meet our goals. And that determines how we act. And so what is emotional wound? Is more of a trauma. What is a trauma? Trauma is a wound either physically or mentally or emotionally. So in this dimension, you're talking about that aspect of a person that is being hurt as a result of not having met expectations. And so when expectations are not met, it creates a wound, though not physically, like you said, they are happy, they are excited, but deep within there is a hurt. So emotional wound has to do with those hurts that are as a result of crisis, disappointment, rejections, or even some moral wrongs people have committed, and they now feel guilty about it. So that inability to process that negative feeling, like I said, mostly because of inability to meet expectation as against last year. So it's like a baggage, trying to process what went wrong, what did I not do well, or what was I supposed to do. So that inability, and emotion is that sometimes you don't see who you should react against. It is internalized.
Yes.
I know it is very difficult to get in tune with yourself than for you to get across to someone. So that inability to be self-aware and diagnose and get to the point and begin to let go, like releasing a bottle up anger or disappointment, and beginning to see life in reality and accept that this is part of life and work through it, can make people get stunted and stopped, and then the next year become very difficult for them to run.
That is really revealing. Yes, we know that emotional wounds may not bleed physically, but they actually affect our peace of mind. They affect our decisions, like you said. They affect even our confidence.
Yes.
So at this point, I'd like us to know why these experiences, maybe experience of past year, still have such strong emotional impact in our present life today.
Yes, you know, life is a continuum.
Yeah.
We are seated down today, you and I, but we cannot be disconnected from yesterday, and we cannot also stop thinking about tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So wherever we find ourselves, there are two dimensions: the past and the projected future. And then you're talking about why are people not able to get disconnected from that emotional wound?
Yes.
Like I said, people enter every year with expectations, with goals, with ambitions. People make promises, and then you invest time, energy, resources, relationship, thinking that at a certain point they will become a reality, and then suddenly the 12 months is over, and you can't pinpoint what you can raise as a scorecard. So you know, the gap between expectations and attainment is what brings about emotional problem. The wider the gap, the more difficult it is to manage emotion. For example, someone invested maybe ₦1 million last year, thinking that ₦1 million should bring about maybe a return of 500,000, only for the person to have 50,000. You see, that gap is very big, and there's a disappointment. But if the person has about maybe 450, he knows that means he has worked. So when the expectations that people have and the actual reality at the end of that period is too wide, people begin to doubt themselves. Is it that I'm not capable, or I'm not worthy for this kind of attainment, or maybe a relationship didn't go the way I want? So people begin to recriminate themselves. Self-guilt comes in, and so this, what is going to be the problem? It affects decision because it blocks thinking.
Okay.
It creates fear. You may not take steps. If I had done this last year, it didn't work, what is the guarantee that I should do it again? So people become more cautious. They won't take risks, they won't take initiative, because after all, I did more last year and I didn't have anything in return. So it affects decision making, and then people begin to become what? Secluded. They cut away from people, especially maybe people know that you fail in an attempt. Failure, like the last rebroadcast was saying, people know he failed, and now they're afraid to get to the public. So that cuts you away from initiative. It cuts you from accepting yourself. Your value now become less, because whether you like it or not, your attainment is tied to you as a person. And when last year, for example, after analysis, it seems you don't have much to flaunt, to project, to share on social media, to discuss about, it reduces your self-worth and your meaning. And it takes someone that is very truthful to sit down, go through it, accept the areas that work, look at what didn't work, and now understand that the real me is different from attainment. It's a skill. There is a saying I always tell people: what is broken in you is less than what is not yet broken. Just that the focus is always on what has not worked.
Yes.
But the real you, what is left untapped, unbroken, is greater than what has broken. But it needs skills to get to that. So that affects decisions. Now people don't know the goals to set, and then no initiative, and they enter life with what? A backlog of bitterness, even envy that others had a better last year and they didn't have. So that alone affects spiritually. You get disconnected with yourself and an environment. You cannot pick the signals around you for you to walk in a way. So you lack what? Connectivity, the transcendental aspect of life. is affected.
Actually, these are serious effects on when it comes to emotional wounds or emotional issues that we tend to sometimes neglect. So this leads me to the next question. What happens? Because you see, some people, sometimes they live in denial. These things are affecting them, but they refuse, or sometimes they just want to talk about it. Probably they don't have somebody to trust, in quotes, to talk about. So what happens if someone lives in denial? What happens? What effect is there if emotional wounds are not being attended to?
Thank you very much. The first thing we need to understand is that we are all impressionists. Human beings are beings of what? Impression. We try to manage who we are to give people the best version of ourselves. And so most of the time we do everything not to allow the real self pop up, for people to know, oh, upon all this glittering, this is actual situation. So that takes us to where, who can I confide in? And another thing is that it's a skill to self-access.
Okay.
You know, you see that we are brought up more to think than to feel. It's easy for a mother like you.
Please, let's understand that illustratively.
We are brought up to think, to be rational, logical, than to feel. If a child cries, the mother would say, why are you crying? You don't need to cry. But that child will be more helped to think. It's a thing, like always think right.
Okay.
But they won't tell you feel. And so that's why we have cut off the aspect of ourselves, the feeling, which affects our normal existence. So that's key. People will always told not to express their feeling, especially the male gender. And so anything that wants to come up for you to feel, you try to be mature, you box it. And so what happens is that when you return that feeling inward, it affects the immune system. It affects your brain processing power, because it's going to create cortisols.
Okay.
That will affect the body. That's why internalized anger will show forth in illness, because you were not able to express, to say it. So the reason is that people are afraid to really come up and let people know what they feel. And most of the time, once you want to open up yourself to even access yourself, you will see areas you didn't do well. Because one thing is that we always project what went wrong to others. We externalize than we saying, what did I do that I supposed not to have done? Take for example, if your son comes back from school and scores 10 over 30, he said the teacher gave me 10. But if that boy has 30 over 30, he said, mommy, I made 30, I scored.
Yes.
If a team wins, he said, the referee was very, very partial. But when the team takes the trophy, he said, I knew from the beginning we were to win. So
real life experience.
Yes, so we don't accept, because when we accept, it brings about accountability, responsibility to own ownership of what has happened for us to work. That's why, for example, like I said the last time I came, we have more prayer houses around us than where people learn, because by prayer is an externalized help you're looking for. But if you sit down with someone to let the person know, you have not done this well, you have not done this well, reorganize your life, your business, your education, sit down and read, the person feels difficult because the responsibility is now on the person. But when you say, let's pray, let's seek for external help, the person is just waiting. Like someone going for a doctor. The doctor have to treat, to know what's my problem and make me well. But when it comes to you, to take the person through as a counselor, as an expert, the burden is now on the person. So that's one of the things people are afraid to access the emotions and be honest, because in life it is not what happened that really matters, it is what we make out of what happened. Responsibility for you, the I am, that irrespective of what happened, there is still a me I've not accessed, and when I access the me, I can come out of that problem. That is where the problem is.
Yes, emotional wounds.
Yes.
There is this saying that time heals everything. And I want to know, is time enough
To heal.
to heal the past year's wound?
Okay, let me take it from the medical and get to the psychological. Under trauma, we look at physical wound and emotional wound. Are they the same? Some similarities and differences. Time heals is I have a cut.
Okay.
And I get to the hospital. The doctor will give me the right injection, maybe a tetanus injection. Tell me what to do. Don't put that hand inside water. Don't do this. So for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, time will heal with proper word attention. It's still time, but there's something being done. But if I now keep that cut, or the person keeps the cut, that time will heal. In 3 weeks' time, something will come up that will make that wound become life-threatening. So how does time heal? Time heals because attention is given to the situation. And then the person is begin to what? To declutter, to disengage from the emotion, to manage it, to come to terms with life. So in the process, that time heals simply means time doesn't heal by folding hands. Time heals because behind the scene, the individual is doing the right thing. He's talking to the right person. He's letting go of the things he cannot change. Accepting responsibility. Showing gratitude to life. Like I said, the things unbroken are more than what is broken.
Okay.
So time heals because the person has allowed him or herself to actually pass through and do the right thing. That is when time heals. Time does not heal in abandonment of responsibility. In fact, when that is done, time compounds and complicates the problem. So time heals because attention is given in the right direction.
All right, friend. If you've just joined us, you want to highlight on Heartbeat AM45 this morning, and right now, the focus that we're looking at is healing from last year's emotional wounds. I don't know what you have at stake that is affecting you, but I have a professional in the house talking to us about emotional wounds. So stay with us. All right, sir. Let's look at disappointment and betrayals. These are very common. So how can one move from this aspect of emotion when he's been hurt right so bad?
Human beings, we first must accept that life is not perfect. Who was the first person that had disappointment? God himself. When he gave us a platform to live a better life, and we pull away, as the scripture says, he said he was grieved that men deviated from where he put them, but he had to still rework with man. So the first thing is that accept that there will be disappointments. You know, the thing is that when we set out for the year, especially we do resolutions, we speak the positive. Fine, we need the positive, but we have not been prepared for eventualities.
Yes.
We don't create a room for what if this happens or when it happens. It must be accepted you will be disappointed, and you also will disappoint yourself and will disappoint others. You can disappoint not because you wanted, but because of circumstance that made you not to meet up. Resources may not be there. A third-party decision can make you be disappointed. So the first thing is that people need to know that life is not perfect, and be prepared that when disappointment comes, they need to walk through it. It is that illusion that life will be as we plan, or everyone we come into their space will be the golden person, especially in relationships. You know, I said we are impressionists. The golden person you saw, oh, this was the person for the year for me. And then as we get to reality, things are not like that. So the fact is that we don't live an ideal life. We live the real life. What is life putting on the table for us, and we walk through it and make the best use of life at that moment and stay positive that we can bring the very best out of it. It is when people have wild dreams and imaginations, unattainable, grandiose dreams that don't fit into their narratives, and the things become like a pipe dream, so they now say disappointed. In the first place, they had disappointed themselves by thinking that way.
Okay.
So disappointment is part of life. If life was rosy, we won't enjoy life. It is the difficulty that we encounter life, the setbacks, and then we come back over here that makes life meaningful. So it is a balance. So we are prepared more to win. No one is prepared to handle setbacks. So we should be prepared for the two. This is the world we live in. There will be disappointments.
Sure. I think that we should also bring to bear this aspect of, let's talk about failure. You know, this is one emotional torment that some people hardly can get out of it, because I've seen someone, a lady who prepared solely and fully for her exams. After that, she took the exam and then came out nothing to write home about. She was so disappointed, so wearied, so worried, to a point that it got almost out of our wit ends. So how can we rebuild ourselves? How can we come out of this when failure strikes?
That's very important. You know, as a psychologist and educationist, this is one of the things that we faced. Why do we fail? We fail because we have tried. Why do we fail? We fail because we have gone outside our familiar terrains. So it shows that we are growing. We are not doing the things that we have mastered. I mean, we are trying to push the boundaries for more attainment. And though sometimes we may think we are prepared enough, but you know, all the preparation is like simulation. It's like war. You simulate the war, but when you enter the theater of war or the football pitch, is a different thing. Things will change. And so why do we fail? We fail for so many reasons. One, we fail because of inadequate preparation. We fail because the information at our disposal is not enough for us to encounter the things that comes our way. And you know, you cannot succeed beyond what you have acquired and what you have known. So these are the things that can make people fail. And sometimes we also fail because we overestimate our capacity vis-a-vis what we are about to face. And so we have this presumption that we have all it takes, and so when we go there is a different thing. And like I said, we live in denial. We don't accept our part of the failure in most times. However, there are also circumstances beyond our control that brings about failure. In one of the courses I take in school, self-management and visioning planning, under goal setting and attainment, there's what we call goal post-mortem analysis, just like we do post-mortem when people passed away. So that, why do you do goal post-mortem? So that you're able to free yourself from the factors that are not internal, so you don't have unnecessary guilt, and be able to know the aspect that were external that you didn't have anything to contribute. It's almost like SWOT. So you know where you can apportion blame, you know where you can control yourself, you know where you build. But when you don't do the post-mortem, you bundle everything. Since the project failed, since I failed the exam, so everything is about me. So you now see yourself as inadequate. The next thing you need to analyze, what aspect of the failure did I contribute? What was external, or what was the thing that was unforeseen? So you can now have a balanced approach. However, failure takes away from our pride. Failure takes away from our notion of invincibility, that we are always able to do it. And so when failure creeps in, whether we contribute or external factor, we are the one that owns the outcome. So it depreciates us, and people laugh at us as we didn't do it. So the next thing is that we need to understand that we fail for so many reasons. And we fail because one of the things that we have attempted doing things that are beyond where we are today. So that is a plus. When I do analysis for failure, you need to help the person even appreciate the fact they failed. And so what is failure? Failure is an approximated success.
Okay.
It simply means that this is not what to be done. Like the person that came up with light. He said, why did you fail over 9,000 times? He said, no, I didn't fail. I only realized that over 9,000 ways were not the proper way for us to do it. So most of the time is that when we fail, we lump the failure without analyzing it. And let me shock you. You know, most of the things that we enjoy in the field of technology, they were not the original ideas in research and development. Most of them are failures in the laboratory that have become the product you and I are using today.
All right.
So failure is part of life. It means we are growing, we are trying, but there were certain things we didn't do well, we didn't see coming. So we need to go back and see it. Yes, that emotional sting is there. We need to work through it. And that's why you need to have people who can help you talk through and work, not people that make it become like a dead end for you.
All right, sir. Our time is really winding down, and then I know that we still have other aspects, other areas to touch when it comes to healing from last year's emotional wounds. All right, sir. Before we go, I'd like you to give us practical tips on how one can fully heal from last year's emotional wound, and also had maybe a word of affirmation that one can actually use to get energized and be able to face what's coming this new year.
So to our viewers all over the world, people that are watching us, what we are discussing is the fact of life. That one, we are emotional beings. We feel happy when things go the right way, and when things swing the other way, there is this feeling that gnaws at us and makes us to feel bad. That doesn't make you to be less human. It simply means you are in tune with yourself. That's why you are feeling that way. That means you are in tune with your situation, and you are actually being truthful to yourself by expressing. In fact, when things go wrong and you express it appropriately by feeling bad or angry, that is the right way. But the next thing is that after you have felt that way, you need to sit down and take into consideration, what are the things I should do now to get out of this situation? One, acknowledge that things have gone wrong. Number two, accept the fact that you have the capacity, you have the ability, you have the resources and the help to come out of it. And then you look for someone to talk to, a professional or an expert, to see how they can take you through that particular aspect that you are feeling. And then, like I said, even when you find yourself in that situation, remember that you still have more of you than what is broken. And just 1 year that you didn't make certain level of attainment does not mean that another year will be like that. So try to let the past be, walk through it with people that can help you, and take time to look at the thing you can learn from those failures. Is not taking everything away from you. It's just a signal that you need another way to go around.
Yes, some words of affirmation. Wake up.
The affirmation is that stand up, wake up, keep pushing. What is left unbroken in you is more than what has been broken. So the year 2026, you can still achieve more than you have expected. So rise up and take charge of life. Thank you.
Our emotional stability.
Yes, yes.
I think this is a fine place to leave it. Thank you, Mr. Edogweket Esiet, for your professional thoughts. I'm sure your words have brought us comfort, hope, and confidence to face the year. Thank you so much once again for coming on the program. All right, friend, this is where we leave it on this bit of the program. Don't go away. Heartbeat continues with Kamkoda and his crew. Stay with us.